Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to Sin's Workshop. I hope you are all having a wonderful day. So, today we're going to be reviewing Salvación by Sandra Proudman. This was the book club pick for my virtual book club Read with Sin's Workshop. Absolutely loved it. I loved that it's sort of a female version of Zorro, and before I begin or continue, I do want to say that Univision, someone needs to pick up with this book and make a telenovela, because as much as I love the book, I give it 4 stars. Let me just start by saying that I do give it 4 stars. I do think it was lacking in some areas that I think a telenovela could expand upon. Okay? One of the things that I wish I had seen more of, and there are 3 things. There are 3 things I wanted more from this book. I wanted more of Lola being Salvación, the Zorro. I wanted a deeper dive into the romance between her and Alejandro. And I wanted more backstory on Hernandez. You know, he is our villain here. Those are the 3 things I wanted more of in the book, and those are what I think a telenovela could expand upon. Because Hernandez, he's a good villain, don't get me wrong. But you could tell that there's more, you know? You could tell that there's so much more to his backstory that wasn't explored in the novel. You know, there's so much more between him and his relationship with Alejandro. Because, you know, he is basically Alejandro's father figure. So there's more backstory there that could have just been expanded upon. I understand why the author didn't, because then for a book, it probably... I never had an issue with the pacing of the book, but there were times that it felt very dense, and that's why I can't give it more than 4 stars. I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I really did love this book, and it has so many good aspects to it. I just wanted more. So I just need Netflix. I need someone to do a telenovela based on this book. Just like I need Studio Ghibli to turn Watermoon into a movie. But it has so much more potential. There's so much more in this novel that, you know, you can do a deep dive in it. I think that's why I love it, because it makes me want more from it. You can tell that there's more to the story. She touches upon it, you know, she highlights some of the aspects, but you can tell that there's more. And maybe the publisher made her cut it out. You know, you don't ever know. Maybe there is more that she had in notes or backstory, that this is just like a first draft. You know, maybe she, you know, the author did want to do more, but the, you know, publishers were just like, let's cut this out. Let's cut this out. Because that's what publishers do. You know, they're there to keep you engaged, you know. But sometimes, sometimes editors don't know. They don't always do, you know, a good job. But Blood of Hercules, point case. I wanted more, but not in a bad way. Not to say that it was badly written, you know. It made me want more because it was so well written, and I just want to dive deeper into the novel itself, because Lola, she's such a fascinating character, and I think I really resonated with her because she has a very tense relationship with her mother. But that's, you know, es la familia. That is typical of every Mexican family. My family, a perfect example. I have a very tough relationship with my own mother. It's a very Mexican thing. I hate to say it. I hate. But it is my la familia. You definitely understand Lola and where she's coming from. The way she sees her brother. You know, she's basically a daddy's girl. Her brother is, you know, the titular mama's boy. Mama dotes on him. And her mom, you know, El Mágica, she just wants to kind of put her daughter in this bubble. And mind you, her family knows that she's Salvación. I like that they kind of support her in being Salvación by turning a blind eye to it and calling upon Salvación when Salvación is needed by the townspeople of Coloma. But her mother does not give her affection to the point where Lola doesn't really think her mother loves her. And again, I think that just resonates very strongly with Mexican culture and Mexican women. I mean, we don't talk about our feelings. We push everything down. Deep down. This book was so Mexican, and I loved it for that. I think I loved it so much for that. Yeah. Right? It's it definitely resonated with me as just being a Mexican woman, because I was reading it, and every time, I will say this, if you are not a Spanish speaker, Proudman uses a lot of Spanish, honorifics or just basic colloquialisms in the book. To me, they did not affect me as I'm reading it, and mind you, my mom did not practice Spanish with me growing up. I got all of my Spanish by watching telenovelas when I was a kid. Although the way she likes to tell it, I'd never wanted to learn Spanish, but okay. You see what I mean about repression? We just repress everything. But for me, knowing some Spanish, it's really funny. When customers talk to me in Spanish, it's like I know nothing, and I'm deer in the headlights. I go to a Mexican restaurant, and I have no problems, speaking Spanish and ordering food, and then, conversing with the server in Spanish. It's like, oh, I know Spanish, shocker. It's like it's there, but it's not there. So, as I was reading it, it was effortless to me, but I do know firsthand, my friend was reading it, and she said it felt to her like she was trying too hard. And mind you, she also does know a little Spanish as well. Her in-laws are Hispanic, but her in-laws are Cuban, and that's completely different than being Mexican. So, completely different. Every Hispanic culture is very different. But to her, it felt like it was trying too hard. The first sentence of the whole book is, everyone was waiting in line for a milagro. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, oh, wait, that was Spanish. I'm like, oh, I get it now. There's a lot of Spanish. So it might throw you. If you are not, a Spanish speaker, or even if you're not Hispanic in general, I think there will be a barrier, because this is a very Mexican book. Very, very Mexican. And I loved it for that. Just the whole family dynamics, that's Mexican. The culture, you can definitely see that Proudman is celebrating her culture and really drawing on her roots to tell this female version of Salvación, female version of Zorro. And I think that was really, really interesting and very cool, and that's why I loved it so much and why I wanted to dive deeper. But she also addresses topics such as colonialism, not just white colonialism, but European colonialism. Remember, the Spaniards colonized the South. The Mexicans, spread up. California used to belong to us, okay? Alta California, in the book. They colonized that aspect. They took it away from the natives. And that's a recurring theme that Salvación draws upon. She's like, my father's always saying, no, we have to go back to Mexico. This wasn't our land. Yes, we lost it to the Yankees, but it wasn't our land to begin with. We stole it from the indigenous people. And I really like that appreciation, because on my grandfather's side, I am also part Native American. So there's a lot of talk of colonialism, and I think that that's really, really rich, and I think it adds more depth to the story, because she learns from her father, this is not our land. And when you see the topic of land being discussed, it also ties into the magic, el sal negra and sal roja, right? One destroys and one heals, but they're stripping it from the land. They're taking it from the land, and they don't even know how to use it properly until they meet the indigenous people who give them a quick little scene of how to properly use it and how to temper it. So it's a really richly thought out novel. I think it was really, really engaging. I personally loved it a lot. You know, just it really connected to me as just as a Mexican, as a Hispanic, as a Latina, right? It really, really connected to me emotionally, and I think the author did a really good job of highlighting the problems with Mexican culture and rectifying it. And, you know, because you do see that between Lola and her mother, their exchange. It ends on a good note. It ends on a I do love you kind of note, an acceptance note, a warm note. And you're just like, oh man, now that's not realistic, but it's beautiful. It was a moving story. I highly recommend it, and I love it. That's all I can say. In any case, thank you all for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book loving friends. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.